And we are live. That's right, we're live, but not necessarily alive. Let me turn that light off. It's a bit too bright in here for my tastes. And now it's all too dim. It's a very cold day today. Obviously, there's lots going on in the world, lots of horrible things going on in the world right now, especially in France. If you haven't been checking the news, recommend you do so, but try not to let it get you down. I've got some friends, employers over there, right in Nice, where things that are going on right now, terrorist attacks, by the looks of it, have taken place. And yeah, it's been a very alarming, very worrying morning and afternoon. But I thought I'd come in here because coming on here always takes my mind off of the worrying events of the world. Greetings to South Africa, to Bertus Visser. And yeah, I just thought I would shoot the shit, as they say. Never a less authentic term has emerged from my mouth. And hello, the Luxstall. About other things, more fun things, more trivial things, one could argue. And hello to Yeti Mind Tricks and Labukats. I will do my very best to pronounce your various usernames in as, I guess, authentic a way as I possibly can. So, yeah, I'm coming on here because there's lots of darkness out there right now, and you sometimes need a little bit of light. And, of course, who is more light and cheery at all times than myself? Hello to Scott and hello to Renee in Arizona. You are watching Vampire Guy again, the Luxstall, as well you should be. Vampire Guy, that would be my superhero name or supervillain name, and also not a terribly good one. So let's talk about what I've been up to. Recently, a book I co-developed, Ghost Hunters, was put on Kickstarter, so that's good news. What's even better news is the Ghost Hunters RPG Kickstarter is a World of Darkness game. It hit funding rapidly. We've since doubled that. We've had over 1,000 backers. There's only 2 days left on the on that Kickstarter. It concludes on Halloween, so if you're watching this live and you haven't backed Ghost Hunters yet and you're interested in playing a role-playing game where mortals hunt ghosts, then please do check it out. The link is in the description below. I can see Bertus has just sent 70, by the looks of it, South African Rand. I think the Rand is the South African currency. I have no idea where that money goes, Bertus, so please don't send me any more money. Because as far as I know, I don't have an bank account linked up to this YouTube. So that would be nice. But, thanks very much anyway. And thank you very much, Yeti Mind Tricks, I should say, for loving the Vampire the Masquerade Clan and Sects videos. And yeah, Habble Babble Labble hasn't seen this channel in a while, and good to know you're a long-time fan. So yeah, Ghost Hunters. Ghost Hunters is a World of Darkness game. It's currently on Kickstarter. It's for the 20th anniversary line rather than the 5th edition line. So if you like your V20, your W20, your M20, or other 20s, then Ghost Hunters is for you. What's more, it's a game that is specifically designed to pair with any of the World of Darkness games. It isn't specifically a Wraith source book, far from it. In fact, it more or less has you hunting the vampires, the ghosts, hence the name Ghost Hunters. So one could see a bit of conflict in crossover there. But yeah, if you haven't checked Ghost Hunters out yet, it's a book that contains all manner of rules and setting and ideas and case files, character creation, medium rules for playing mediums, and along with character creation for playing mortals in the World of Darkness, which is strangely something that's been absent for quite a long time. It's in the style of the old black books for World of Darkness. If you're a long-term fan of the World of Darkness, you may know what that is. It's that we had books like World of Darkness Sorcerer, World of Darkness Mummy, World of Darkness Mafia, and they had a black border around the edge rather than having the old green of Vampire the Masquerade, the sort of purple and brown of Werewolf the Apocalypse, and so on. So, yeah. please do check out Ghost Hunters. It's a book that I am very proud of having contributed to. We initially started working on it back in 2016, but due to the time it takes for various things to be approved, it's just took a while. Took a while for it to get to this stage, and finally now we got to the point where it has all been edited, where it's on Kickstarter. You can view the entire manuscript just back for $5. You can read the entire thing without buying a copy. And yeah, I do hope that you give us some support. By all means, if you're interested in the Ghost Hunters RPG, it's linked in the description below. So do not hesitate. That Kickstarter ends on the 31st of October. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Lucas says, congratulations from all for all the work and effort for the TTRPG community. You've been following me since 2008. Was I making videos in 2008? Christ, that's a alarming proposition. I know I started around 2008, 2009, maybe 2010. Yeah, how time has changed. Back then, of course, vlogging was still in its infancy, and so we had the YouTube RPG Brigade that may still exist in some form, I don't know, where we would always be sharing each other's videos, replying to each other's videos, making video responses back when that was a thing, and always discussing RPGs via this exciting new format of video. Yeah, that was quite a while ago now, and I've no regrets regarding it. I think it was great fun. I learned a hell of a lot, got to play a lot more games, meet lots of fantastic people through this medium, and of course I'm still using it to talk to all of you and occasionally advertise something I'm working on, but more or less just occasionally clear my head and talk about what I think is fun. So what else do we have here? Goblin Weenog says, glad you're back. Sorry if I missed it. How's work on Swan Song going? It's going very well. Thank you very much. I recently did some more writing for it. Stadia Pro Gaming says, you're the man. You got me and a group of 5 homebrewing. So much fun. Well, I'm glad to hear it, Stadia. Telly Jim says, message last time to say you were a central inspiration in my decision to run a game of Vampire the Masquerade for the first time. My players loved it. We had an amazing time. We've been together since. Well, thank you. Thank you, Telly. And Habble Babble Labble says it was your Zimishi video that got me hooked on V20. Disappointed they were left out of V5. That's a good point, Habble Babble Labble. I'm going to be making a video on the Zimishi soon for this channel, which may seem a bit out of left field. The reason I'm doing that is because I have a Patreon, and one of the tiers on that Patreon is to basically request that I make a video of your choosing. And someone asked that I go into detail on Clan Zimishi, so that is what I shall do based on my Patreon request. And it's interesting to revisit that clan after quite a while, because you're right, they're not in the V5 core book. The reason they're not in the V5 core book is because the V5 core book focuses entirely on the humanity experience of Vampire. So Camarilla and Anarch, very much street-level horror. And Sabat just didn't really have a place in the core experience of Vampire the Masquerade for new players. So the Zimishi will undoubtedly appear. It's just finding the appropriate place for them to appear. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, it's been interesting rethinking the Zimishi, how I would present them in V5, what I would do with the clan essentially, how I see them working in Chronicles, the different types of Zimishi that exist out there, how to conform to stereotype, how to break to them. I'll be doing all of that in an upcoming video very soon, as I say, because one of my Patreons is backed at the level where they can request those videos. So speaking of Patreon, it would be inappropriate of me to not advertise ways of sending me money. Do check out patreon.com/Matthew Dawkins. It is linked below, because if you want videos made, if you want me to run games for you, we currently have 3 games running. We just finished 1 campaign of Pathfinder, and I'm running a Chronicle of Vampire the Masquerade, running a Call of Cthulhu adventure, running a Broken Rooms story. So that's 3 different games for 3 different groups. We just finished Pathfinder. We'll be starting a new game up soon, and we are looking for new players. So if you are interested in playing games with me running, then again, check out my Patreon. It is in the link below. I will quite happily run games for you if you pay me for my time. That may sound mercenary, but, you know, I do it for a living. That and writing. Writing takes up quite a lot of that time, to be honest. But I do love it. I do love getting the chance to run games for lots of different people who I otherwise wouldn't know, and people who aren't getting a chance to play otherwise. So yeah, even if you only want to play for a little while, for a few sessions, a short campaign or something like that, I'm sure we can make that happen. Selena Rhodes says, hi, your videos helped me learn the lore of World of Darkness in more depth than I think I could have without them. I'm very glad to hear that, Selena. Do let Paradox know. Michael Fuentes says, do you listen to any World of Darkness podcasts? Any to suggest? I always suggest the Onyx Pathcast. We talk about the World of Darkness on there quite a lot. I also recommend podcasts such as, and this is going to be going purely from memory, the 2D10 podcast. That's a great one. The A Bunch of Gamers podcast. They also have a YouTube channel. They're very good too. Red Moon Role Playing, of course. I've ran various games for Red Moon Role Playing, and they often delve into the World of Darkness. They're available in podcast and video format as well. So yeah, there's quite a few there that you could experience, enjoy, and hopefully you will. Selena Rhodes says, thank you, and thank you very much, Selena, for not just for watching my videos and engaging with them, but also for coming on here and telling me that my videos made a difference. It genuinely never gets boring to hear that, not because I need my ego puffed up, but because it shows that making those videos was a worthwhile use of my time. Berta says, I'll see if I can sponsor. Yes, do check out the Patreon. A man in Cyrillic, I assume man, says, greetings from Russia, gentleman gamer. The Faustian man says, Jeebus, you are a busy man. Yes, I know, I wrote all of these books. No, I am a busy man. Kevin Martin says, morning, great to finally catch this live. Well, it's great to finally see you here, Kevin. I mean, I've been waiting a long time. Plaid says, excited for that video then. Zimishi gets stereotyped easily, cast in one mold. I know, isn't it? And doesn't that seem a bit ironic, given the clan? But they're supposed to be the most mutable, so thank you very much. Delta Spam says, greetings and salutations. I'm still in preparation for my first Fall of London run. Great job on the book. I can't take the credit for Fall of London, really. I was only around at the concept stage, hiring writers, and after that, various issues resulted in me having to move away from it. Not issues with the project, just demands on my health, my time, all kinds of things. And it was left in the excellent hands of Steffi Devana as developer. And it was a brilliant team of writers. So I can't take the credit for whether that book is excellent, but I'm glad to hear you're looking forward to it. Goblin Weenog says, Stream of Blood, a good vampire channel, gave you a nice shout out. Oh, that's nice. I will have to check them out and bomb them at some point with my comments. Vindorian Production says, Lord, I managed to catch you live. It's been a minute. It's been more than a minute, Vindorian Productions. Where have you been? Matey Truck says, greeting, Mr. Dawkins. I'm starting the Sacrifice next week, hoping that your Red Moon role-playing game will inspire me. Well, I'm not running that one. That one's run by Clara Herbal, who is one of my frequent freelance writers and now a co-developer of mine on V5 Children of the Blood, an upcoming book for Vampire the Masquerade. So I am playing it, though, so I do hope that you enjoy it. Let's see. What else do we have? Vindorian says, I know the sensation on being busy. I'm working on my next combination discipline book. Oh, combination disciplines are a lot of fun. I do love a nice amalgam. Michael retracted his message, so I hope it wasn't insulting. You've got another Michael saying, love the stuff you put out. Keep up the good work. And Looney the Dragon says, oh, I hope your health is fine now. It is fine, thank you. And so, while all these other chat comments are coming in, and I will have to get back to them, I've already promoted the fact that there's a Ghost Hunters Kickstarter running until Halloween, so for the love of God, check that out before it ends. The link is down below. I have also promoted the fact that I have a Patreon from which I run games for people, and where you can literally pledge to get me to make videos on certain subjects, such as the upcoming Zimishi video that I'll be making. What else? Well, what else did I put in my video title? Vampires, of course. So I am still developing TTRPGs for Vampire the Masquerade, or TTRPG sourcebooks for Vampire the Masquerade. I am, as you know, writing material for Swansong, one of the upcoming video games set in the IP of Vampire the Masquerade, so that's very exciting. And I've also contributed to a whole slew of the board games and such, from Vampire the Masquerade Heritage to, and God, you shouldn't forget the games you've actually worked on, should you? What else did we do? Did the one by Epic Games. What was that one called? God, isn't it tragic when you've worked on a game, and especially one you've enjoyed, and then you've just forgotten the title? Either way, I'm sure it's fantastic. But yeah, I'm also working on source books of Vampire, and the ones that are coming up, as anyone who follows the onyxpath.com's Monday meeting notes will know, we're entering second proofs for Cults of the Blood Gods. That won't be far off being in backers' hands. Same with Let the Streets Run Red. That's already in backers' hands, and soon it will be available for general release. And I have been developing Trails of Ash and Bone for V5. I've been co-developing Children of the Blood and Forbidden Religions for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. So yeah, lots of upcoming Vampire products, and it is always a joy to work on Vampire. As you all know, it is my, I guess, first RPG love, really, or the one I'm most associated with. May not be my favorite World of Darkness game, but it is definitely one that holds a very dear place in my cold, unbeating heart. So I'm always happy to answer questions about Vampire. You can either ask them here, or you can contact me through my website, MatthewDawkins.com, or if you back the Patreon, you can join my Discord, where I'm constantly there, and all the other people there, we're always talking about RPGs such as Vampire. What else do we have here? Vindorian says, Vindorian's been streaming Vampire games and writing. Well, Vindorian, if you stream games that Onyx Path are working on, you need to get in touch with me via MatthewDawkins.com so that I can promote those games on the Onyx Path blog. That's what people do. If you are running games that we make, whether it's, for Vampire, I would usually mean something based in Chicago, or using material from Chicago by Night, Chicago Folios, Let Streets Run Red, Cults of the Blood Gods, something like that. We will happily promote it on the Onyx Path blog. Likewise, if you decide to run something like Scion or Trinity, They Came From Beneath the Sea, basically any of the games we work on, we are always happy to help promote your stream or host it on our Twitch channel, which may even get you some more views. So keep it in mind. Get in touch with me on MatthewDawkins.com. Doesn't just apply to you, it applies to anyone interested in running games and having it promoted by us at Onyx Path. Gear Mawatvet, I probably mauled your name. Any future plans for Load-In showing up somewhere in upcoming books you're involved in? Well, Load-In already appears in both Chicago by Night here, and look, there's another Chicago by Night there. And he also appears in the Chicago Folios to an extent, although he doesn't go under the name Load-In anymore. So, yeah, Load-In's got a fair amount of coverage in V5. I wouldn't worry about him for a little while. We've got lots of other areas to cover. Oh, the Patreon link took you to a 404 page. Well, that's not good, is it? So let's see whether we can actually change that. Matthew Dawkins. So I'm going to change this on the fly. Let's see whether it works. Yeah, apparently it should work. So as long as you're going on patreon.com/Matthew Dawkins, you should be able to find it. So good luck with that. Matthew Dawkins is spelled with 2 T's, and it's Dawkins. The Luxstall says, would be an amazing voice actor for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 NPC. Mysterious, powerful, and cunning. Well, thank you very much. You should tell the good people at Hardsuit Labs that I'm sure are very busy right now that I should be working for them as a voice actor. I may well be doing some voice acting for promotional material for one of the other World of Darkness video games coming up, so stay tuned there. Vindorian says, looking forward to that Zimishi video. I'm sure all my good friends at the Primogen, Law by Night, and everything will be kicking the air in frustration that, damn it, he's coming back to take back his crown. I think I've lost my crown a long time ago. Let's see. Escape Game says, hello, Gentleman Gamer. Any internal insider news on the possibility of an innocent second edition of Chronicles of Darkness? It was announced a couple of Gen Cons ago and then disappeared. It's still on the radar. Believe me, it is. It's just... it needs to find its right place in the schedule. It needs to be approved as well beyond its current status. And there needs to be a good market reason for it. So, yeah, lots of things up in the air regarding Innocence, and it isn't a game that has left our minds, I can tell you that. Darth Reven 3994 says, opinions on Pisanob branch of the Giovanni. I think they're a fantastic branch of the Giovanni because I'm a big fan of Aztecs or Aztec history, mythology, and so often when I play games of Scion, I'm a child of Tezcatlipoca or a similar god. I like what we did with the Beckett's Jihad diary, really seeing how mercenary the Giovanni were with their minor families, basically serving them up to the Harbingers of Skulls as kind of a peace offering. So that was fun. But yeah, I like the mythology of Pockley and the Pisanob. It's one of my favorite parts about the Giovanni minor families. What else do we have here? Vindorian is looking forward to the Cults of the Blood Gods. So am I. James Donaldson says, will we see a sourcebook covering wider kindred politics for V5? Oh, you may have to be more specific. Oh, within the UK. You were more specific. Yeah, it won't all be based around Chicago. Once Let the Streets Run Red is done, I imagine that'll be, or is out officially. That will probably be Chicago capped off for a while. Then we'll be moving our spotlight elsewhere. In Trails of Ash and Bone, one of the chronicles is actually set in Birmingham in the UK. So you'll have Fall of London, and then you'll have Trails of Ash and Bone. So there you go. Plaid says, I'm in a Roman religion course right now, and we were talking all about Mithraism, so I sent my professor the section of your World of Darkness to Camden video in which you discuss Mithras. She thought it was awesome. Well, that's not embarrassing at all. I am very glad that she enjoyed my Cappadocian longing for Mithras. Oh, good. I'm glad Travis got in touch with you, Vindorian. Bronhitis says, hello, Gentleman Gamer. Do you have a guilty pleasure RPG? Keep up the good work. Do I have a guilty pleasure? Well, that would imply that I feel any guilt about playing a particular game. There's a game called... I'm someone who really is not at all into anime in any meaningful way. I like Attack on Titan, but I've never really got into anime. I've always found it a bit too shouty and screamy and intense for my liking. And I know that's stereotyping, but that's just been my experience of it. And yet, my friends and I have on occasion had cause to play the Mage RPG, which is about as weird and creepy as you can imagine in places. I guess it's as creepy as the players make it, and my players tend to make it creepy. It's one of those games we have decided as a group that we will never tell anyone what occurs when we play it. And it's usually perfectly innocent. It just seems a bit strange at times. A bunch of... well, let's see, it's my at-home game group, or my local game group is 3 guys, 2 women. We're all adults, and yet playing maids, sort of Japanese schoolgirl maids, always feels a bit dirty by the end of it. Cephalopods is the exclamation point at the end that's causing the Patreon 404. Well, we'll get rid of that bastard then. There you go. I think I've just amended that. Thank you. So yeah, if we're all backing my Patreon right now, then there we go. I got a Patreon out of this stream. Admittedly, it's only for $1. I can't even buy myself a cup of tea with that, but thank you very much, Jamie. He said utterly ungrateful. Add a bit to that. All right, sign up for first tier Patreon. There's Jamie. Yeah, if you can up it at some point, that would be lovely. And you have pointed out that's a third of a cup of coffee. I don't drink coffee, so you take your $1. I'm joking. I'm very grateful. Thank you. It all adds up. Delta says the problem with the link. Okay, so everyone's pointing out what's wrong with the link now. Okay, let's see. Thank you for introducing me to the World of Darkness setting, says Gordito. I've always known it existed, but your vampire lore videos for the White Wolf really helped me helped sell me on the setting. I'm now STing. We always assume ST means storytelling and not sexually transmitting. So I'm happy for you, Gordito, but if it was the latter option, do get checked out at your local venereal clinic. Nicole C says, any idea when we'll be getting Salubri in V5? I can't confirm anything regarding the Salubri. Now, if I was the person developing a Sabbat book and I had full permission to do whatever I wanted with the Sabbat, I would be putting the Salubri in as a pillar clan of the Sabbat. Specifically, that's Salubri warriors, but I imagine the Salubri healers would probably be feeling a bit jaded by now as well. I just like the idea of the Salubri falling in with the Sabbat because I think by now they should have come to the realization that their antediluvian wasn't the second coming and is probably the most dangerous one out there. So what better reason than to join the Sabbat than to finally kill Sorlock, because everyone else seems to have failed it. So that's what I would do with the Salubri, but that I'm not the person developing that book. Kitsune says, love your videos. They help get me into Vampire and World of Darkness. I'm playing Scion 2nd Edition tonight for the second time. I don't know who to play. Any suggestions, please? Well, I've already mentioned my love of the Aztec Pantheon, but if you want to go for something that you can easily just understand, that you're likely to relate to with any sense of ease as well, then go for one of the Theoi, the Greek Pantheon, because most of us are familiar with various myths regarding things like Odysseus and Perseus and Theseus and all the Ises. Go for a child of Poseidon if you want to play someone a bit angry. Go for a child of Hermes if you want to be a bit cheeky. If you go for a child of, I don't know, Athena if you want to be excellent at everything. So, and Vindorian knows Maid all too well. And as Teddy Jim says, what happens in Maid stays in Maid. That's quite correct. Habble Babble Labble says, were there any Caps Lamia or Nagaraha, that was exotic of me, who rejected the call to clan Hecata? Yes, absolutely. The Hecata is not homogenous across the entire clan of Death. It is just the storefront. It is the most recognizable front for the clan of Death at this time, if indeed the Giovanni aren't still there. And if so, were they still affected by the change? If you mean by change to the discipline arrangements and Banes and so on, I think there's a preponderance for, especially a lot of fans, to focus on the core discipline change of the Hecata as being one rule for everybody. And it really isn't. You can tinker around with it as much as you like. Same with the Clan Bane. Really, the Clan Bane becomes the same across each of the bloodlines of Death, because there is a necessity for some balance. And if you go with the Cappadocian, see how I've started saying Cappadocian instead of Cappadocian? That's me trying to be accurate. If you go with the old Cappadocian flaw of corpse-like pallor, you basically just have a weaker variant of the Nosferatu Clanbane. That's fine if your group is fine with that. But some people like a flatter sense of balance. So everyone having the painful bite means that you're all on the same playing field. In terms of having which disciplines you pick as members of the Hecata, really, if you want to play a Giovanni who has Dominate Potence and Oblivion in this case, then go ahead. Go ahead. But the risk is then you will feel very similar to a La Sombra. So what else do we have? Emberlass says, greetings from Hungary, or Blash, I should probably say. Yay, vampire discussions. I'm always happy to discuss vampire. Bob's Dungeon says, I stopped playing and running World of Darkness games some time ago because of certain players in my group. I know that feeling. Your videos have really gone a long way to make me want to run again. If you ever want to play, Bob, check out my Patreon, because I run games for people who join it. Goblin Weenog says, I'm working on a Vampire the Masquerade Dark Ages set in late medieval Italy. Any advice on how to what extent to use historical figures? Would these be Giovanni ghouls, do you think, such as the Medici, Machiavelli? I tend to stay away from using historical figures as vampires. I think they're more interesting when they're actually mortals. You can break that rule occasionally. I usually go for the sort of third son of a noble family who actually existed, could have been embraced. But I like to preserve a certain level of historical accuracy if I'm doing a historical game. That's just my preference. I don't think we've ever made a Medici a vampire in any of the Dark Ages books or Masquerade books. One of them may be a La Sombra now. I know when we did the Convention of Thorns LARP, there were Medicis and probably even Borgias there, but I don't think that's canonical. Let's see. Goblin Weenog says, afraid too much historical figures would make my game too Assassin's Creed. You are correct. And they stand the risk of overshadowing proceedings. It's like when you play Forgotten Realms games and Elminster and Drizzt turn up every other session. Common J, thank you very much for sending me $10. As I pointed out earlier to the person who sent me some South African, I've forgotten the currency now, despite the fact I said it 20 minutes ago. I don't know where that money goes because, as far as I know, I don't have an account set up in this particular YouTube account, so I don't know where that money is going to end up. But, thank you all the same. I'm still very grateful for it. But if you want to send me money, please use my Patreon. Or if you don't want to go through the hassle of Patreon, I do have just PayPal on my website, MatthewDawkins.com, where you can send me money to buy me a cup of tea. Right now, that would be a cup of tea delivered to my house because, of course, as with the rest of us right now, I'm trying to avoid going out as much as possible. Anonymous Asthma says, hi there. Hi. Falani says, good day, everyone. Good day, Falani. Goblin Weenog says, sounds good. Excellent. Darth Reven says, will there ever be a Vampire the Masquerade book set in Ireland in a city like Cork or Dublin? I think the big risk of Cork and Dublin, specifically Cork, is the low population. Dublin is a bit better for that, but I think we could do a... I think how you need to think of these things, and certainly this is how I think of them, is don't focus on the need to do city-by-night source books. If everything is a city-by-night source book, you run the risk of falling into the same template over and over again. And so what you really need to do is think of a scenario, a story you can tell that is specific to that location, that feels distinctly Irish. And I know Ireland is a very multicolored tapestry. The people in the south, far south, are far different to the people in Dublin, who are, of course, far different to the people in Northern Ireland, and therefore, and of course, along the border as well. So you need to really start with something that's a story that takes you through that place or focuses in on a certain aspect of it. Doing City by Night is a very good way of making things feel a bit, I know I've used the word already, but homogenous. Some City by Night books work. Others, I think, you need to sort of skirt around the edges a little, if that makes sense. Vindorian says, same, I avoid major figures in my vampire games unless they are already in the canon as being kindred. Simon Angans here sent me 50 Danish kroner, and as I pointed out, and I am very grateful, Simon, please, if you want to send me money, get something out of it for yourself. Go on Patreon, and if you want to send me money, then I'll run a game for you, or go on MatthewDawkins.com and send me money so I can buy myself a cake. I don't know. I am very, very grateful, believe me. I do appreciate you sending me that. I just don't know where this money goes when people send it to me on YouTube. I assume it ends up in an account somewhere, but I don't know, honestly. I'll have to look into it. It may turn out that I've got this massive YouTube premium credit. I'm not even on YouTube premium, that is. Embalash says, one of the things I love in Vampire is how they integrated history into the fantasy world. Me too. Kayan says, what do you personally think Barley's goal is? That's an interesting question, because there's a certain amount of revisionism about the Barley or Baali throughout the editions. Sometimes they are presented as actually being the good guys. They're the kinds of people that are prepared to burn the world in order to save it. They are prepared to sacrifice their own souls in order to stave off demons. And I think that works if you have a Barley-focused chronicle, but if it doesn't, it is far too focused on the Barley experience to really make it relatable to a Ventrue, Torrid, or whatever. So I prefer to position Barley as stereotypes, which may sound like poor storytelling, but if I want an ultimate evil, or someone that really is irredeemably corrupt, then Barley are perfect, and they're scary. As soon as I start introducing them as nuanced, I start losing some of what makes them so terrifying, which is weird, but that's how I find them. Common J says, thank you for introducing me to the world of darkness. Thank you very much, Common J, for stopping by. Falani says, some noble families are just massive. Having a minor Habsburg cousin in your game probably isn't too big of a deal, right? Indeed, you are quite correct. Simon says, would Catholic Ireland be considered a place with heavy La Sombra presence? I don't think so, no, because the La Sombra largely exited the Catholic Church around the Renaissance period. As they got deeper and deeper into the Sabbat, they started losing the religious links, except in the Mediterranean, I would say. So how would I build Catholic Ireland into Vampire? The fact is, Catholicism in Ireland right now, and I say the fact is, I don't live there, so there's just going off of what I know or what I've heard, is that unlike in some parts of the world, largely South America, Catholicism in Ireland is seen through an increasingly jaded eye. So it wouldn't be a place where I would, or at least the Catholic Church is. So I wouldn't be looking at Ireland in any kind of true faith imbued heavy manner. I wouldn't be seeing it in that style. I think I would probably position Ireland as quite a tired kingdom, in a way jubilant that London has fallen. Not that all the Irish hate London, far from it, but I think given that Mithras never took hold of Ireland at all, and now that Mithras is supposedly dead and gone forever, the Irish princes have outlasted him. And now the question is, well, what do we do now? We've not been at war, but we have survived him. Is there anything to gain from this? So I wouldn't be looking at it from the religious perspective. I think, if anything, religion is far on the wane in Ireland when compared to a lot of the political and business infrastructure angles of things like the EU right now going into very politics-heavy thought. Anyway, yeah, it's an interesting chain of thought. Jonathan Megarcilazzo says, did you play a game called Bloomhaven? I didn't play Bloomhaven. I imagine that one would have mushrooms in, but I did play Gloomhaven, yes. And I do love Gloomhaven. Bass Hunter S. Thompson says, the Eternal Gentleman Matthew. Well, I try. Bronheiter says, I'm not fully aware of all Vampire the Masquerade books, but is there a Vampire the Masquerade book set in the Balkans, especially during the rule of the Ottoman Empire? Not during the rule of the Ottoman Empire. You do have a Transylvania by Night for the Dark Ages, just over my shoulder, and the Transylvania Chronicles. They're not necessarily terribly historically accurate as far as presenting the region. And of course, Transylvania is just a very small part of it, and you never visit Turkey or really anywhere outside of that sort of Romania and Hungary part. But nonetheless, it may give you what you need. Eran says, yo-yo, hail the prince. Yo-yo indeed. Karen May Bacarissa says, classic horror books, ? Unfortunately, I don't know what that means. Do you mean, is there one I like? Am I working on one? Common J says, what's the current state of the Sabbat in V5? They are currently largely at war, presumably with Methuselah's clan founders, very powerful elders, and they're trying to fulfill their destiny. Morrigan White says, what happened to the Ravnos in V5? They were my first clan. I miss them dearly. I have no doubt the Ravnos will show up again. And again, if I was if I was the person making the Sabbat book, I would be positioning the Ravnos as one of the Sabbat clans. But I have already put a Ravnos in the Chicago folios, which is just back here. There is a Ravnos back in V5, so it means they will be playable again soon, I'm sure. It just needs to find the right book to put them in. A Pagan Perspective says, good to see you here, gentlemen. Good to see you. Gimmel Star says, hope all is well with you and the family. Congratulations on Swan Song. Can't wait to see what you do with the game. Thank you very much, Gimmel. And Slicks says, heart. Heartbeat, as the Pet Shop Boys would say. So, as all the comments have stopped for now, although the viewing figures have surprisingly shot up. Oh, lots and lots of hearts now. From Slilix, thank you. I should point out again that Ghost Hunters is on Kickstarter until Halloween. It's a World of Darkness RPG. So if all of you people here love Vampire the Masquerade and love the World of Darkness, Ghost Hunters is a book I think you're going to enjoy, especially if you like ghost stories or movies like Blair Witch, Ringu, Paranormal Activity, Insidious, that kind of thing. This is very much the book for you. So that's linked below. And likewise, if you want to donate money to me, really the best way to do it is to go on patreon.com so you can get something out of it and essentially pay for me to run a game for you, or pay for a video to be made, or pay to get tutoring on how to get into the RPG industry. I do that as well. I'm a trained trainer by trade. That's a lot of churs. And I'm writing games now full time, but I am still a qualified trainer, so I'm more than happy to train people on how to get into writing full time like I am. But again, that's something I offer through my Patreon, which is linked below. And if you don't want anything from my Patreon, just go on MatthewDawkins.com. There is a button to donate a cup of tea to me, and you can do that. So Simon says, here's how you can claim money from chat donations. I think if you linked it, the link has been eaten. Lots of questions now. Steven says, been running a weekly V5 game for a year, quite enjoying it. This Saturday is a 1-year game. Any insight into the progress of the V5 Players Guide? I can't give you any insight there, Steven. You would have to check with Modifius. I contributed to it, but I am aware of what's going on with it, but unfortunately it's not something I can tell you about. Plaid says, do you have tips for making hard character decisions quickly? I can easily slip into my non-Vampire the Masquerade characters, but when it comes to the monstrous aspects of my K-Knight, I struggle making decisions as her. That was said very quickly, wasn't it? Plaid, if in terms of how to make hard character decisions quickly, I always suggest that even though V5 doesn't have nature and demeanor, it's still worth keeping those things in mind for your character, because I still use them as directions for if I need to come up with a decision on the spot and I can't think of a calculated decision for what to do, I will check what I wrote down as my character's nature and I will go with that if it's something impulsive. If it's something I have any control over, I will go with what their demeanor says. So it's a classic Vampire the Masquerade tool, but I still use it. I heart Vampire as well, Balash. Scott says, already backed. Good for you. Zachary says, hi, Matthew. Big fan. Very excited for Ghost Hunters. Will we know Quentin King's fate in Swan Song? I certainly imagine you will. He's the prince in my Boston Home Chronicle. Yes, Quentin King is a Boston-based Malkavian prince. One of the less stable princes in North America. But yeah, I would be surprised if he doesn't show up in some form. Some pieces, maybe. Glazor28 says, thoughts on the appearance of the Quay Gin in V5? I don't think they should. Personally, my tastes, I think that they are very much an exoticized version of East Asians. And that's not me being all politically correct before anyone hops in and says so. I think that we can handle vampires from Asia, which is a massive continent, and the East, which is just a direction, without pigeonholing them into some weird mutated Japanese, South Korean, Malaysian, Chinese mythology. So, I mean, what I do in my games is, if you ever watched my Gentleman's Guide to Vampires, and I did some clans I invented for a long time, people seem to think they were real. Things like the Go Long, the Chonyo Guishin, and others, I have them having the same origins, whatever the origins are, and the same structure as other Cainites. They probably don't believe in Cain as a progenitor, and I don't hold with the idea of Cain as a progenitor in my games. I just have it permanently mysterious, because who would know, really? It's a bit like someone walking up to your door and saying, I know for a fact that God created Earth. Well, it's wonderful that you know that, but the rest of us may reserve the right to disbelieve that. I do the same thing with Asian vampires. I don't go for the Kuei-jin being a different creature or different race, or it's all a bit problematic. Michael Fuentes sends me hearts. Thank you. Embalash sends me hearts. Thank you. Oliver Maloche says, what's the best way to introduce World of Darkness setting themes to players? I had a group fall apart as people had trouble getting into it. Keep it intimate, keep it local, keep it tight. Stick your game into a select territory in a city. Don't worry about introducing them to 30, 40, 50 characters in court. The worst games I've played are the ones where storytellers provide you with a big cast list at the beginning, because players aren't going to remember that. Introduce them to just a couple of other vampires, more mortals than vampires at first, and maybe start shifting those scales as the chronicle goes on. But in general, keep things to a very localized platform, and they will get the world a lot easier. Vindorian says Ghost Hunters is going to be great and enjoying the in-between Phasmophobia. Yeah, is that not a video game that came out recently? Maybe incorrect. Seasonal says, is it linked? My Patreon is linked. It's in the description below. So is the Ghost Hunters Kickstarter. Cephalopod says, I've often wondered about creating a gangrel bloodline based on lampreys, leeches, and mosquitoes instead of the more typical animals like wolves. Mariner gangrel are a thing, and some people were very fond of them, bizarrely. Embalash says, how to make hard character decisions quickly. Roll a dice on that character's most related stat. Yep, that's also workable. Whoa, we've got a lot of questions here. Prestigious Penguin says, I'm really excited to see all the attention games and books the World of Darkness is getting. It's wonderful after so long. Me too, but the Chronicles of Darkness is fantastic as well. I've got them over my shoulder. I don't hold with the idea of the new World of Darkness murdered my World of Darkness. It's just another version of a game. It's just a different iteration of a horror game, and we can enjoy both. Delta says, I'm recently more and more interested in the Lianon bloodline. Any suggestions how to fit them in a game? With difficulty in the modern era, but I do love the idea of having pagan, blood ritual heavy, rather murderous vampires in a game, because again, it adds a level of unknown terror. I use them sparingly. I use them to create suspense. One of those, I have no idea what kind of vampire this vampire in the domain is. They practice all kinds of weird rituals. They seem to keep territory outside of the domain where no one goes. So what's the point? They can't feed on anyone in there, except they're luring people to them like sirens. Falani and the Lianon do appear in a form in Let the Streets Run Red, which is currently out to backers of Chicago by Night, but in the next few weeks will undoubtedly be available in general release. Falani says, I've been interested in Mage 20 for some time now, but the systems and settings seem pretty complex. Any advice on where to start for a newbie with Mage? So yeah, Mage is a complex game. If you can see the core book up there, you probably can't see it very well, but it's very big. And it's, I think, the biggest 20th anniversary core book. I see the core book as more of an encyclopedia than a book you read from beginning to end. I think the way you should use it is you just pick out the bits you need. And just like I recommended just now with Vampire, Mage is best when you keep things localized. You don't need to introduce a mage from every single tradition in a city. You don't need to introduce the technocracy immediately or the Nefandi immediately. It's better when you keep things very, very local and hyper-focused on a select part of the plot. And then when that story comes to the end, as it's coming to the end, you might introduce let's say, a member of Iteration X who comes out and does something weird that you've never seen before. And then in the next story, you start focusing on a bit of technocracy threat, that they're trying to subdue everyone that you saved in the last session because they know too much, that kind of thing. I can go into more detail on this kind of thing if you back my Patreon. I wasn't actually going to promote it terribly heavily, but as everyone seems to have questions for me, if you really want to find out more about the world of darkness, about getting into the industry, into writing good games, that sort of thing, I am more than happy to offer you my time, as long as people are prepared to pay me for it. So by all means, check out my Patreon. It is linked below. And if you click on the link, you will find an array of tiers that you can back for. You can only back for 1 month if you really want to. Just get a single month's worth of video calls or me running games for you, that kind of thing, and we'll go for it. Let's see. Kayan says, what do I think of the games coming out? There's a lot of games coming out, Kayan. You may have to be more specific. Bronhitis says, wonderful stream, Matthew, but unfortunately I've got to go. Good luck, Bronhitis. Zachary says, he's certainly a very unstable prince in my chronicle. That's Quentin King, not me. I've never been unstable. The Slicks guy that commented Hearts has made a World of Darkness honest trailer. Ah, interesting. I will check that out if I remember. I will try to. Any news on more city books as seasonal? I'm sure there will be more city books coming. It's just none have been announced. Trails of Ash and Bone, which is one of the source books for Cults of the Blood Gods, or one of the stretch goals, I should say, covers the domains of Birmingham in the UK, Atlantic City, where else? Florence, in Italy, of course, and a rural environment outside of, well, a rural Denmark. So we've got several new areas, but again, we don't want to make every single city sourcebook just another carbon copy of Chicago by Night. If I have any big criticism, I've got a few of the old city sourcebooks for the World of Darkness released in the 90s. It's that they started just reusing the same template over and over again, and I would prefer to have a good reason to visit each city with a different story, a different political setup, that kind of thing each time. Jiri Stibor says, I'm running a Demon the Fallen game right now with Vampire. I plan on Kane having a resolution here. Do you have any advice on how to play that out? That's a big question for a live stream. How would I resolve Kane? I think, and this is just my short answer, for longer ones, you're going to have to back the Patreon, I guess. My thinking on Kane is he's the kind of person that can never admit that he did something wrong. I mean, it depends on how you want to play it. Do you want God to be a dickhead, or do you want Kane to be a dickhead? Because if God's the dickhead, Kane tried to make peace with him a long time ago, and God just refused to forgive him because he's God. That's the sort of preacher route of God. If you want Kane to be a dickhead, insufferable, and such like, then Kane is the kind of person that can never admit to himself when he's done something wrong. He just cannot understand it, to the point that he forgets what he even did, and he will twist it around in his head until he is always the injured party. I see Kane as a very sad, and not in a, oh, that's tragic way, a very pathetic figure who is always blaming someone else for all of his problems, can never ever take responsibility. And so I imagine it would take an astronomic, one could even say godlike effort, to get Kane to ever see what he has done wrong and how he has spread this line of murderers throughout the world. So that's my take on Kane in very short sense. Let's see, what else do we have here? Have you thought of a pitch for you to write the HBO World of Darkness, says Aaron? Well, I'm not a TV writer, so that would be a very new thing for me. So no, I cannot say so. Habble Babble Labble says, any thoughts on the Magar? I've been playing one in a long-running game since Dark Ages up to the Modern Age and feel they've been neglected. Well, they weren't neglected so much. I came up with the name for the Magar when we introduced them in V20 True Black Hand, or V20 Guide, what's it called? The Black Hand, a Guide to the Tal Mahayra. And so that name they got carried over to the Dark Ages. And as I say, they haven't really been neglected. They came out very late in the last 4 years or so, and so they appeared in 2 books, which isn't bad for a bloodline. I prefer the idea, canonically speaking, that the Kia Seed ended up just wiping them all out. I like them as a Dark Ages anomaly that ended up being just eliminated. Though in Law of the Bloodlines, I wrote the Kia Seed chapter for that, and I allude to the fact that they may still be around. So you do what you like with them. Let's see, what else do we have here? Let's see. Hebus says, tell Primogen to stop shilling for bail money for Black Lives Matter terrorists. Black Lives Matter aren't terrorists, I'm afraid, and if you don't like that, you can leave. They are protesters who are protesting a very valid concern, which we keep being told about, and very little seems to be getting done. Gal Rukin says, hello again. Robert H says, good to see you again, Matthew. I hope you're very well. I am very well. The Indecisiveness says, oh, hi, Matthew. So happy to catch you live like this. Thank you. Gimel Star says, so the Chonyo Guishin is a fictional clan. Did I misunderstand what you said? They are fictional. I created them for my video series. You will not see them appear in any book. Let's see. Golden Weenog says, thank you for answering all these questions, Matthew. I am a gentleman and a scholar. I am a gentleman and a scholar. Or I try to be. Darth Reven says, will the Gangrel, Mariners, and Tlakik be in V5 at some point? I hope so. I hope we get all those bloodlines back, but it really requires them to be presented in the correct context. Michael Fuente says, I had an idea where Abel was reborn and Cain, for whatever plot reason, had to protect him once more with feeling. Yeah, and let's see how that ends up. Heber says, a Borat advert just played for me in German, was hilarious. Great. Let's see. What can we do with this person? We can... Okay. All right. I'm just having a play around with settings on here. Oh, there you go. Aha. Have I played Well for the Apocalypse Heart of the Forest? I have, says that was Mr. Mister. I enjoyed it as well. Have you played any Urban Shadows? I've not played Urban Shadows. I played Monster Hearts, though, and I enjoyed that a great deal. Embalash says, I would love a Move series or TV series well done of Vampire the Masquerade. Me too. I am sure one will come out. Speaking of the Talmahe-Ra, what do you think of them as a sect? I think that they are an excellent sect if you want to play the kind of game where they would be prominent. So that would not be street-level horror. That would be very high-level cosmic, political and supernatural horror. And that's excellent if that's the game you want. And sometimes I do want that. And I'm going to have to go soon, I'm afraid. I've got work calling. Shy Yastrab says, how do I convince my friends that there are other games than D&D 5th edition? Well, you can buy them books for Christmas. That's a good way to do it. Black Lives Matter is led by self-described professional Marxists. Well, as last I checked, being a Marxist wasn't actually a crime. So let's put you in timeout as well. I like having this power. I'm not a Marxist or a communist or anything like that, but when people start throwing around nonsense, I'm more than happy to give them a kick. Ali Tazak also has played Vampire the Masquerade Redemption 19 years ago, and ever since I love to play and enjoy World of Darkness, but due to lifestyle and difference of taste of friends, I've never found a group to play with. How can I do it solo? Easy! You join my Patreon. It's linked below. There we go. You join my Patreon. I will run games for you and others. All you have to do is sign up, pledge some money, and you will buy my time, and I will spend that time on you. Yeah. Embalash, Michael says, got any story hook ideas that aren't in the Chicago books? Lots. I write them for a living. Joseph McKeever says, are there any plans to produce content that will decentralize Masquerade storytelling from the Cainite mythology? Always, and I do it in pretty much every single book if you look closely. Oliver Maloche says, thank you for answering all the questions. Have a good time at work. Cephalopod says, have a nice weekend. Do writers have weekends? No. Michael says, are there any plans to make supplements for high-level games for V5? There will be, I have no doubt. Habble Babble Labble says, I had a Z-Machine nurse who was embraced by a German scientist. She was dedicated to the Sabbat, will go out of her way to protect her son, who was embraced by the Ventry Prince of Berlin. That's a nice story. Vindorian says, rumor has it we have weekends. Falani says, thanks for answering all our questions. Lord Sidious says, I typically make a Z-Machine based off the first Doctor from Doctor Who. It's funny watching thinking he's a frail old man. Well, all of that said, without breathing, I must go, but please do back Ghost Hunters on Kickstarter. If you haven't already, there's only 2 days left to go. It ends on Halloween, so please pledge some money towards our project. We really appreciate it. And if that book doesn't interest you, if you're not interested in another World of Darkness game, that's fine. You may want me to run games for you. Come on over to my Patreon, back it. I'll run games. You join a Discord. We all talk about RPGs all the time. You'll have a lot of fun. Alternatively, I also offer tuition sessions on getting into the industry and how to run good games and that kind of thing. You may enjoy that too. So do check out the Patreon. Do check out MatthewDawkins.com. And do stay tuned for my video on the Zimishi, because it will be coming soon. So with that said, bye-bye. Bye-bye. And thank you.